Hey everyone, and welcome to a special Christmas edition of Cyber Caffeine Chats, where we're taking a complex topic and breaking it down into smaller, easy to understand chunks. Well, here I am in the snowy mountains of Austria, and I'm sitting on a gondola. It's a small component in the larger ecosystem of a ski resort here in Chadming. All the different pieces are working together, whether it's for lifts, the slopes, hotels, restaurants, in a symbiotic relationship to make sure that the tourists have a great time when they come here. Let me show you exactly what I mean by that. Well, that was certainly very enjoyable. It's just the same in cybersecurity. We've got all this technology, systems and processes that need to work together and play nicely in the sandbox to give you a better overall security posture and a reduced risk. So with that, today we're going to be meeting two special guests. So without further ado, let's dive in and go meet them. Well, hello to Mr. Scott Roberts and Mr. Dominic Codzi. Welcome to Cyber Caffeine Chats.
Thanks for having us. Merry Christmas, gents.
Merry Christmas, thank you.
Merry Christmas indeed. And look, I've got one very important question to ask before we kick into it, and that is, what is your favourite Christmas movie and why? First of all, Mr. Codzi.
It's a tough choice, but I think I'll go with Will Ferrell's Elf. I grew up on him, watching him, I should say. So I'll lock in Elf.
Yeah, absolutely. Great choice. And same question to you, Mr. Roberts.
I love Will Ferrell, but I can't go past Chevy Chase. Christmas Lampoons always does it for me.
Fair enough.
Fantastic, fantastic. So look, as a reminder, in this series, we're talking about a concept called CSMA, Cybersecurity Mesh Architecture. It's a term that's been coined by Gartner for quite some time now. We've been looking at all the different components as part of this, how they interoperate, central dashboards to manage and understand the insights around this. But today, I want to cover off an important debate that's happening in the industry today, which is platform or best of breed, and what is the best option to go for. So Scott, traditionally, probably best of breed has been what people have gravitated to, right?
Yep, correct. Yeah, very much so. They've had very much a best of breed approach, but they realise that they've got to evolve. It's not necessarily going to be the right fit for them in this day and age. You know, you walk the same street, you'll see the same things type mentality. You know, security teams, they're stretched, they've got multiple technologies that they need to be across, there's alert for and they're under a lot of pressure.
100%, and that's why a lot of people are looking at this platform approach now, which affords a lot of benefits, right?
Yeah, definitely. Well, when everything's connected into the one space, you obviously got that enhanced visibility, which means you've got a better chance of reducing that risk across your environment. And of course, that leads to better security outcomes as well.
Simpler, it's more cost effective, and
better security posture as well.
Absolutely, yeah. And for these reasons, that's why a lot of people are starting to look at this approach. However, we also need to consider concentration risk, which is effectively you put all of your eggs into one basket. What happens if all that blows up? So, Scotty, is there a more balanced approach we can think of?
Yeah, I believe so. I think it's not a case of one nut to crack. I think you've got to have at least 3 or 4 strategic partners that you work with.
Yeah.
And then it's about how does that all come together to interconnect to give you the best security outcomes.
Yeah, so we've got those strategic partners. They all need to play nicely in the sandbox together, right, Dom?
Yeah, exactly. I think when I first was introduced to this industry about 4 years ago, the first question we would get asked would be, do we protect these different types of operating systems? But nowadays it's all about, we've got XYZ in place already. How do you integrate with that? So it might be your firewalls or your identity or your Siemens source solution. So it's all about how do we play nicely, but more importantly, how do we share threat intel information across the board?
So we've got a threat that happens. How can all these things work together?
Yep. And of course, speaking the same language, so the other parts of the environment can take that information on board and remediate that risk.
And I think that's a really great point, gents.
Yeah. If it's all right with you, Phil, I'd love to see it.
Absolutely. Let's take a look. All right, so having a look in Vision 1 and looking at a central dashboard, again, we spoke about being able to combine all different components, whether it's from tools that you can consolidated or also third-party technology. And again, looking at the risk overview, we can see that there's multiple data sources contributing towards this risk. Now, this may be Vision 1 trend sensors that you brought into the platform, other security services that you've consolidated in. But again, a big portion of that is these other potentially strategic vendors within your ecosystem that you need to gather insights from in order to understand your overall risk and reduce your security posture. So we take a broader look at that. You can see we've got quite a wide range and a growing coverage on different things that we support. You can see various different categories here, things like firewalls, identity, SIEM, SOAR, threat intel, and again, a lot of different range of vendors. If we take Microsoft as an example, quite broadly distributed in today's environments. Again, you can see we can integrate with things like traditional AD, more modern Entra ID, things like Azure for public cloud, 365, and all that sort of stuff. Now, this may be bidirectional, so not only pulling insights into the central platform, but also working with that tool to deliver response outcomes should we need it. Now, to have a look at a more specific example, if we find a threat or we find a risk, how can we use this ecosystem to respond to this? We've got a capability around playbooks. So we've got a trigger that could be automatic or manual. And in this case, we're looking at a bunch of predefined detection rules. So we've had a look at the models that we've got selected here. This one in particular is all around identity. So whether it's account compromises, unusual sign-ins, anomalous behavior. And again, you can see this is across various different processes, whether it's trend components that we consolidated or third-party stuff such as Entra here. Now, once we've identified this trigger for the playbook, we can put some logic in place, depending on the severity of the issue, and then we can do particular actions. So again, if this happens at 2 o'clock in the morning, we don't have to do any manual effort here. It's all automated to go and triage and respond to that particular event. And again, from an identity perspective, we can talk to AD or Entra through things like disabling the user account, forcing sign-outs. But again, conversely, if we're talking about an endpoint, it may be we want to go and isolate that. It may be we want to go and terminate a container. We may want to quarantine an email. So all this stuff is contextual based on what's actually happening. So again, the more that we consolidate, it's going to make all this central management easier. But again, on the same time, having the ability to bring in this integration with these third-party tools gives us greater control and increased simplicity. Okay, so hopefully you found that useful, everybody, and you enjoyed that.
See you in 2025 for the next Cyber Caffeine Chats.
Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Cheers.